Marvel Zombies, Protagonist becomes world's strongest hero. Episode 131. Do you like urban legends? There is an interesting urban legend here, 112 Ocean Avenue. It is rumored to be a haunted house. I plan to go over and see it recently. Do you want to come together? Pepper asked her new partner Artemis expectantly. Even now, Pepper didn't realize the fact that her new friend was not simple, and thought that the other party was an ordinary person who was exposed to supernatural forces like herself. Pepper's new friend, Artemis, isn't really interested in these ghostly things. As long as you see more of anything, it is difficult to arouse interest again. But Pepper, as a rare mortal friend she made, didn't want to spoil her, so she asked, "Tell me in detail." So Pepper told her the story of the murderous house at 112 Ocean Avenue in New York. The story begins in the early hours of 197,411 in the early hours of, when a young man did something crazy in this house and brutally murdered his mother and 4 siblings. After the incident, he was charged by the police department, and in court, he said that she was controlled by a voice on the day of the incident, and that he did such a thing under the orders of that voice. A year later, the house had a new occupant. It was a couple. They moved here with their children. The supernatural event happened again. They moved in less than 2 days, and they were scared away. Another month later, 4 female college students from medical school were looking for a house and learned that there was a cheap and very spacious house for rent, so they moved in. One of the 4 female college students, Nina, had a congenital heart attack, and on the 3rd day of stay, she forgot to take her medicine, suffered a heart attack late at night, and fell into a dying state. She survived, but found her 3 companions at dawn the next day, saying that she had suffered a heart attack yesterday night and was on the verge of death. And in that state, her soul went to another world. Nina's 3 classmates and friends, in order to verify the so-called other world in Nina's mouth, got a little potion from the medical school that can make people fall into suspended animation, diluted and injected it, and fell into a state of suspended animation to verify Nina's statement. Nina is responsible for artificial pacing after cardiac arrest to wake them up. Half a month later, the 4 female college students checked out and left 112 Ocean Avenue. Afterwards, in the reporter's interview with them, all 4 said that after death, they would indeed go to another world. Little Pepper said here and added, "The other world they are talking about is not the same as our kind of crossing, but the real world of the dead, which may be heaven or hell. I dragged my friend at the Manhattan hospital to prepare the diluted potion for me, and I was going to try it there, and you would accompany me, right?" She looked at Artemis expectantly. Artemis looked at the new friend in front of him speechlessly, and sighed that she was really ignorant and fearless. In a state of imminent death, the soul does leave the body, and Artemis knew this. After the body is dying and the soul leaves the body, the soul will gradually drift to the realm of death, until the dying body is healed and the soul will return to the body. But it will also bring back some things from the world of death. Whatever you bring back, it means ominous. Pepper, are you serious? Artemis, aren't you curious? No, I'm not curious at all, but I still want to give it a try. Pepper made a death declaration. This. All right. C felt that he couldn't persuade the other party. In order not to let this mortal friend who he rarely made die, it was better to let the other party personally experience that situation, and eat a long and wise one. Anyway, no matter what the other party brought back from the death realm in a state of suspended animation, she felt that she could cover it. The 2 agreed to go to 112 Ocean Avenue in New York early tomorrow morning. On the evening of the day, Pocket Space Castle Private Bar, Artemis and Pepper drink and chat here, to pass the time. Yi-Bai is also here, chatting with the 2, and hears that they are going to explore the haunted house tomorrow, to prove the existence of the world of death. Tomorrow, Yi-Bai also had nothing to do, and decided to accompany them, because he is also interested in the world of death. Whether it is Marvel or DC, the concept of death has a personification. For example, on Marvel's side, the Sister of Death who has an unclear relationship with Thanos and Deadpool. For example, on the DC side, the second sister in the Endless family is also dead. So the next day, a group of 3 came to number 11 Ocean Avenue. This villa is being listed for rent. The rent is unexpectedly cheap. The first month of rent is free, but you need to pay the second month's rent before you can move in. A month's rent can live for 2 months, and the rent is 120 knives per month, which is simply the price of cabbage in New York. Row is so, this house is still left alone, no one comes at all. The reason for this is that since 1974, too many people have not believed that the evil one has come in, and then they are scared away, and there have even been many deaths of residents. By now, no one dares to live at all, and even this has become a bizarre news event. Pepper used to be afraid to come, but since she became a part of the Pocket Space, she has become emboldened. Pepper took out the phone, dialed the phone number on the sign with the word rental on it, and contacted the owner, who lived not far from the next door, and not long after. "You want to live here?" The owner of the house looked at the 3. She was a middle-aged woman who looked very haggard and had dark circles, and at a glance, she knew that she hadn't slept well for a long time. Pepper nodded and said, "That's right, it's us." While Pepper was discussing the lease agreement with the owner, Yi-Bai observed the villa. Not only observed, but also observed from a high dimension. It's hard to say if there's really dirt inside, but it's extraordinary. The reality dimension barrier is very weak here, and it is barely isolated by the maintenance of the barrier of the New York sanctuary of the Ancient One. Something has been trying to come from the other side, which causes the breath of the other side to gradually permeate the villa, following the high-latitude perspective to penetrate the dimensional barrier. Yibai's consciousness spread to the other side. Blood, bones, undead, gun smoke, blood-red sky, decaying earth, flowing magma, sulfur smell in all directions. What a hellish scene. This place is by no means the realm of death. It is more like some small hell, and its area is a little larger than the border of hell, about the size of New York City. Let's call it a little hell here. It took Yibai less than 10 minutes to observe all parts of the little hell. I didn't find the will of this hell. There is no hell lord here, and there is no devil. There are mostly ordinary undead here, such as wandering ghosts and walking skeletons. Retracting Gao Wei's sight, at this time, Pepper had signed a house lease contract with the owner and paid the rent. In the next 2 months, 112 Ocean Avenue will belong to Pepper's. After the owner left, Pepper said excitedly, "Let's go in." Entering the house, Ardennis frowned. The space here is very weak, and there is an atmosphere of hell. Obviously, she also found an anomaly, but not as detailed as Yibai. Episode 132, Hell? Does that kind of place really exist? Pepper hurriedly asked. During this time, although she has seen a lot of supernatural powers, she still has some doubts about some legends, such as heaven and hell, angels and demons. She does not believe very much. Yibai said, "You will not feel strange if you regard hell as a different dimensional space where ferocious beasts live. Space like yours? Almost. Do people really go to heaven and hell after death?" I still don't quite believe it. Yibai shrugged, not picking up. He was thinking about a problem. There are many talents in their own family, but they lack rare varieties such as angels and demons. Now that he found a small masterless hell, his mind immediately came alive. He was thinking, should he use that little hell to cultivate a hell lord? Like Pepper? Hell Lord Great Demon Pepper Potts. This title feels inexplicable just thinking about it. Ordinary people want to become the Lord of Hell. It is not easy. There are too many preconditions and too difficult. Ordinary people have few to meet the standard. Hell is not the power of order. If ordinary people touch, the temperament changes greatly, that's for sure. Don't be surprised if you go crazy. Yibai asked Little Pepper. There is a hell connected here, and it is a masterless hell. Pepper, are you interested in becoming a witch and becoming the Lord of Hell? You will gain the power of hell, master many supernatural powers. If hell is not destroyed, you will not die. Even if you are killed, you will be resurrected in hell. If ordinary people hear that they will go to hell, it is estimated how far to run. But Little Pepper is different. She knows that you will not harm herself, since the other party said so. It is probably good for herself. Become a demon. Can I still stay on Earth? Will there be angels coming to fight me? Will I become green-faced and fangs like a devil? She balabala a whole bunch of questions. I will purify the power of hell chaos. Believe me, you will not be crooked. The reason why demons rarely come to Earth is not that they don't want to come, but because they are blocked by the dimensional barrier of the 3 sanctuaries of the Ancient Mage, and the Ancient One is the person on our side. She will not expel you. You can continue to stay on the Earth. You haven't said angels yet. Yibai is not very sure whether there is a heaven and angels in the movie universe, but since the evil spirit knight exists, heaven should also exist, right? Once you run into an angel, just hide in my space, they will never be able to enter. Yibai said. Pepper struggled in her heart, and finally boldness and curiosity prevailed, agreeing to Yibai's proposal to make herself a witch. A gap leading to the little hell was opened, and Yibai beckoned Little Pepper and Ardennis and said, "Let's go over there." Entering it, Pepper's body was protected by a layer of stand to prevent her from being injured by the harsh environment that is not suitable for human survival here. Seeing the corpses of hell full of undead, Pepper was stunned. Ardennis was very calm. She had seen the underworld of Hades, where everything was paved with soul transformation, much crueler than here, and the scene here was even better. On the contrary, she also feels that the undead here are weak chickens, and she can shoot a group of people like sugar gourds with one arrow. In order to purify the environment here, Yibai took out a divine tree seed from Kagaya, and wanted to plant a tree here, using the characteristics of the divine tree to purify the power of evil and chaos here. The seed was buried by him into the decaying earth ahead. If you want the seeds of ordinary plants, you will never be able to grow in this place. But the divine tree is different. It is very domineering. It will plunder all the energy that can be plundered, and the energy of hell should not be a problem. I saw that after the seed entered the soil, it quickly took root and sprouted under Artini's stunned and Little Pepper's continuous stunned gaze, and began to grow wildly. In the nourishment of hell energy, the divine tree mutated, and it was blood-red throughout. The surrounding environment, however, became less terrifying after the divine tree turned the chaotic will into nutrients and absorbed, and the environment seemed to be a little better, at least it felt so. It took 10 minutes for the blood-red divine tree to grow into a 100 meters tall hell plant and continue to purify the place. The undead around them fled in fright, and none of them dared to approach the divine tree, for fear of being devoured by that terrifying plant. Yibai stepped forward and put his hand on the trunk of the divine tree, feeling the inside of the divine tree. He found that the mutant divine tree gradually became the center of the small hell, so that it could give birth to consciousness and become the master of this space in minutes. In other words, whoever becomes the human pillar power of this mutant divine tree is the Hell Lord of this small hell. Yubai said to little Pepper, "Are you ready?" "Me, what am I going to do?" Pepper is very nervous. "Look at me." He walked up behind Pepper and put his hand on her shoulder, pouring power into her. Pepper suddenly found that her body did not listen to the call. Her body was filled with an inexplicable power, manipulating his body. Her hands automatically lifted, quickly sealed, and a super powerful sealing technique was cast. I saw that the whole divine technique seemed to have encountered a black hole and was sucked into little Pepper's body. Little Pepper looked at this scene blankly, thinking to himself how such a towering tree drilled into his little body. It's not scientific. Well, talking about science in this kind of place is a very unscientific thing, and in the end, she didn't bother to think about it, so she left everything to Yubar. She trusted him very much and believed that he would not harm herself. Soon, the mutant divine tree completely merged into the position of Pepper's abdomen, and a pattern of ninja spells combined with 6 stars was formed there. It is not difficult to see from this spell that this seal combines the dual characteristics of chakra sealing and magic, greatly strengthening the strength of the seal. Even an ordinary person like Little Pepper can safely withstand the power carried by the mutant divine tree. At this time, the appearance and image of the Little Pepper have changed to a certain extent. He didn't turn into a demon, and his eyes weren't alienated, but his hair was rendered black. In addition to the hair color, the appearance is still the original, but the race is not human. On the contrary, he had the feeling of a winged angel, and his body seemed to be about to emit holy light, which looked particularly holy. Yubai was stunned. Ardennis was also full of surprise. Whatever she becomes, her image is by no means a Hell Lord, which may have something to do with the mutant god tree. Episode 133, How are you feeling? Yubai asked her with a strange expression. Pepper blinked, felt it, and shook her head. I don't feel anything. Yubai, I'll take a closer look. He stared at Pepper and looked at her from a higher dimension, what kind of future possibilities there would be. And from the possibilities, he must be able to see the other party's state. It doesn't matter if you don't look at it, your expression becomes even more strange when you see him. The other party did not become the Lord of Hell, but because the mutated divine tree was in Little Pepper's body, he kept absorbing the power of the little hell, purifying this place more and more cleanly. Quite a feeling of hell is not empty, and it cannot become a Buddha. As she purifies the little hell more and more, she will also become more holy. The mutated divine tree in her body will help her purify the sucked little hell power and return it to the small hell. Ultimately, the little hell is no longer hell, it will turn from the hell dimension to the light dimension. And those undead who used to be here will be expelled by the light and completely report to the place of death. In the process, Pepper gradually acquires some angel-like abilities. Divine tree plus hell equals heaven? This is really wonderful formula. What do you see? Ardennis didn't see Pepper's current state, and seeing Yibai's expression becoming more and more subtle, he knew what he had found. The party Little Pepper stared at Yibai nervously and expectantly. After all, the matter was about herself, and she wanted to know what she would become. This space, because of the relationship between the divine tree, has become a part of you, and the divine tree continues to purify here, no more than a month at most, and this will no longer be hell. Have you heard that things must be reversed? When something reaches the extreme, it often changes to the other extreme. The extreme of darkness is light, which will gradually become your own paradise, and you will master some angel-like abilities. Yibai informed Pepper of the discovery. Pepper was first confused, then ecstatic. She thought that it would be the witch painting style in the future, but she suddenly learned that it was the saint painting style. How a surprise. Next, the trio wandered around the place, retreating from the demons wherever they passed, and none of the undead dared to approach them, not to be exact, Pepper. The divine tree's ability to absorb this dimensional energy has been transferred to Little Pepper, and as long as the general undead approach her, all the undead energy will be sucked away in an instant, turning into ashes and disappearing. As I wandered around, I found that the scenery here is really not very good. After all, it is a hellish painting style. If you want to completely transform this place, you have to wait for January, and the power of hell is completely dispersed. Before leaving here, Yibai helped Little Pepper build a villa here as her base here. Before it is completely purified here, the little one has to stay in the small hell to keep purifying the place, and it cannot be done outside. Knowing that she was going to stay in this place for so long, Little Pepper was afraid. It was good to have Yibai and Ardennis with her, and she didn't dare to leave her alone. Seeing her scared look, Yibai thought about it and had an idea. This small hell is full of bones of creatures, a small number of which are undead and can wander around in the form of skeletons racks, but more are lifeless skeletons. These skeletons are not all human. There are a small number of magical creatures, such as Pegasus, unicorns. Yibai collected them all, enriched his gene pool of magical creatures, and selected 2 non-evil creatures from them, using L2 alchemy, and the magical creatures were refined out of thin air. There are unicorns, there are Pegasi, and there are several female humans, and instilled some memories in them to form self and personality. Let them stay here with Pepper. Pepper liked the legendary creatures of unicorns and Pegasus as soon as he saw them. Leaving Little Hell, Ardennis transited through pocket space and returned to DC. Time flies, January is fleeting. Yibai came to the Little Hell again, and after a month of absorption by Little Pepper, the little hell has completely lost the power of the hell dimension, replaced by the warm and harmonious power of holy light. The holy light shines from the heavenly dome, and the light spreads throughout the dimensional space. On the ground, the undead disappear, the bones turn into ashes and merge into the surface, and the flowing magma cools and no longer pollutes the air here. Now here, as long as it is transformed, it can be turned into a paradise that belongs to little Pepper. At this time, Pepper was bored, and she was playing cards with 3 maids in the villa Yi-Bai had built for her, which was her only entertainment here. Unicorns and Pegasus gather around the villa, the guardian here. In fact, there is no need to guard, the undead here died clean a few days ago. Even if they are not dead, they dare not go to the side of little Pepper, and the reason why little Pepper let them stay around is nothing more than a psychological comfort. After all, this place had a skeleton rack with ghosts and activities not long ago, and normal people live in this place, and fear is the normal reaction. Yi-Bai pushed the door and walked into the villa at this time. Hearing the movement, little Pepper turned around, saw that it was Yi-Bai, got up and came forward in surprise. "You are finally here. Do you know how bored and scared I have been this month?" "Okay, it's okay now. I checked. This place is no longer dirty. Come, let's go out and transform here." Next, in anticipation of little Pepper and her 3 maids, Yi-Bai used the earth escape to transfer all the underground stones to make mountains nearby and renovate the land. He also used wood to create forests, grasslands, and flowers here, and used water to create rivers and waterfalls. With the development of his ability, this space gradually becomes vibrant and beautiful. Little Pepper looked at this scene. On the one hand, he was amazed by Yi-Bai's ability to change the world, and on the other hand, he was excited that his world had become beautiful. As the world became more vibrant, Pepper gradually felt the difference in her body, and she had a feeling that she was the world, and she could do some incredible things here. Along with her thoughts, behind her, the holy light converged into semi-solid matter, forming a pair of holy angel wings, and the body floated up between the flapping of the wings. This novel experience made her enjoy flying everywhere, looking down at the entire space that has been turned upside down from above. She flew to Yi-Bai's side and said to him excitedly, "Yi, do you see? I have become an angel." Yi-Bai looked at him and smiled and nodded. Although the other party was not a real angel, this holy appearance really had that kind of angelic feeling. Episode 134. Time flies, the years are like a shuttle, and time has passed imperceptibly for several years, and it has come to 209. It was this year that Stark became Iron Man, and not long ago, he disappeared in Afghanistan. A lot has happened over the years. The first thing, Veronica is 14, as a 20,000-year-old erudite loli, she has skipped grades one after another over the years, and graduated from Imperial State University not long ago. Stark, the adoptive father, is very proud of his genius adopted daughter, and he is about to spoil her to the sky. The second thing, Yi-Bai used his dimensional ability to adjust the time on both sides of Marvel DC. Marvel has passed many years, and DC has only passed less than 3 months. Third, Pepper resigned from Stark Group and is currently the CEO of Marvel Technologies. However, she has learned many new abilities, generally relying on the mind-body to work there, and she herself is running her own heaven, receiving the souls of some female noble people after death, and turning them into angels that belong to her exclusively through Yi-Bai's puppet alchemical ability. No matter how old a person is after death, after being transformed into an angel, he will be young and extremely beautiful. As for why there are only female souls, and not men? Yi-Bai said that there would be, naturally there would be none. In fact, these angels are only in vain. The difference with people is that they do not grow old, and they have an extra pair of wings that can fly, and they do not have the ability of angels themselves. However, Pepper opened a magic school in her heaven, and Pepper, a half-hung goddess, personally taught her angelic occult powers. Occasionally, when Wanda is bored, she will come to Pepper's paradise to guest lecturer in occult studies. In the fourth thing, Hera became a god king and began to help Yi-Bai manage the Pocket Mortal World and the Pocket Fairy World. Pocket Mortal World aside, the Pocket Immortal World has been successively attracted by Yi-Bai's power over the years, and the souls of believers after death in different worlds have been given new life by Yi-Bai's heavenly Dao girl. Just as the so-called believers in me have eternal life, this is probably the case. The population of the Pocket Fairy World is getting bigger and bigger day by day, and someone needs to manage it. Yi-Bai is too lazy to care, and those in her family are not much interested in this, and Hera, the queen of the sacred mountain of Olympus, has become the unyielding administrator, and by the way, some faith from Yi-Bai's disciples is assigned to herself. The fifth thing, Nat was cut off by Bai and did not join S.H.I.E.L.D. But another Black Widow joined. Her name is Yelena Belova, also an agent trained by the Red Room, who also betrayed the organization. She sought shelter from S.H.I.E.L.D. and became the Black Widow of S.H.I.E.L.D. The sixth thing is that Yi-Bai's faith in receiving goods over the years has become more and more day by day. Not long ago, his divine power reached the standard, cultivation was improved, and his pocket space was held high as the kingdom of God, stepping into a new level of life. Exalting the kingdom of God, he can do many things. If Wanda rewrites reality, his own power does it, and the power is no less. He can not only rewrite reality, but also time, space, soul, power, and other abilities. Each power is equivalent to a single infinity stone, but not all infinity stones combined. When these powers are released, they also consume divine power, which can only be transformed by faith. Now his strength has touched the ceiling of the universe. As long as he comprehends his own rules, he can jump out of the worldview and step from the single universe level to the multiverse level. The seventh thing, the Greek goddesses Artemis, Hestia, Heber, Aphrodite, etc., are now settled in the sacred mountain of the pocket fairy world, with Hera among them. Heber and Aphrodite. Hera felt that there were not enough people, and personally went out to find them. On this day, the sky of the pocket space castle shone brightly. On the swing of the courtyard, Yibai sat here and closed his eyes to read the note, consciously observing the different multiverses of Marvel. At this moment, his consciousness is observing the X-Men movie universe, seeing the story of Wolverine, and then seeing the Silver Fox, who is very similar to Emma's sister Adrian, and another Emma who is very similar to Emma herself. These two are sisters. The former is controlled by physical contact mind, and the latter can be diamondized, plus inspired. The sister's name is Kayla, and the younger sister's name is Emma, and the character feels borrowed from Emma Frost and her sister Adrian Frost, and their abilities are the same. There are also differences. In terms of sisterhood, Kayla has an excellent relationship with her sister. In order to save her sister, who was imprisoned by William Stryker, she went undercover to Wolverine to become his wife and monitored Wolverine for 6 years. In the end, quite tragically, Wolverine was hit by Stryker's 2 Edmund alloy bullets until he lost his memory, and the dead Kayla was forgotten by Wolverine, and finally did not even take the body away, and was left in Stryker's base. Yibai opened his eyes and used his psychic ability to call Emma in the castle. Today's Emma is wearing very casual clothes, a small camisole, plus hot pants, plus flat sandals. She came to the courtyard grove swing chair, sat next to Yibai, and asked him, "What did you call me for?" Yibai entered the storytelling mode. There are a pair of sisters. The sister is called Kayla, the younger sister is called Emma. They are mutants. Kayla has the ability to control the minds of others through physical touch, and the younger sister has telepathic bodies that can also turn into diamonds. Emma interrupted him and said, dissatisfied, "Are you telling stories with my sister's personas? And my sister is not called Kayla." "Don't worry, keep listening." Yibai continued, 6 years ago, my sister Emma was captured by General William Stryker, and in order not to let her sister be brutally experimented by Stryker, my sister Kayla could only obey Stryker's order and go undercover to be next to Wolverine, who had not lost her memory at that time. The story told by Yibai not only has Stryker, Wolverine, Saber-Toothed Tiger, but also the King of Cards, Deadpool, Professor X, who are familiar to Emma, but the content of the story makes her very strange. Gradually, Emma realized that what Yibai was telling was not the story of her original world, but the story of a parallel world. After listening to the story of Kayla and her sister, Emma was touched a lot and remembered things when she was a child. Before she was 10 years old, she had a good relationship with her sister Adrian, and she was not as incompatible as after that. Until Adrian learned to dress up, chase fashion, and become more and more beautiful. While she was still the ugly duckling in the family at that time, Adrian began to gradually distance himself, until her brother Kristen was forced by his father to break up with his gay boyfriend, attempted suicide in pain, took drugs, and even went crazy. Emma's sister Adrian felt that the heir to the Frost family business would be born between her, Emma, and her younger sister Claudia. Emma didn't care about the position of the family inheritance at first, but she couldn't resist Adrian to thorn her in the eye. Not surprisingly, a battle for the inheritance of the family group began, and the sisters fell in love and killed each other. Adrian and Claudia are both losers, and Emma is the successor of the Frost family company. Yibai's story reminded her of her harmonious relationship with Adrian before she was 10 years old, and how beautiful everything was at that time. Now, hearing that there is a pair of sisters who are similar to her and Adrian and who are similar but love each other makes Emma interested. Episode 135. There are 3 origin stories of Emma the White Queen. In the story of higher education, she was originally an ugly duckling, with average academic performance, bullied at school, no sense of presence at home, and often reprimanded by her father. In this story, after her ability gradually awakens, she begins to make herself a white swan step by step, and falls in love with her sister Adrian and kills. In the story of Thinking Game, she gets the inheritance of the family business but voluntarily gives up, runs away from home and encounters danger, and gradually becomes familiar with her abilities in the process. In the story of the White Queen, it is told that he studied at the Imperial Jolie University and was finally recruited to the Hellfire Club by Sebastian Shaw. In high school, because of her crush on the male teacher Ian Kenda in the school, she had the dream of becoming a teacher when she grew up, and this dream still exists, such as she occasionally went to Jean Grey Youth Gifted School to make guest appearances as a teacher and teach lessons to the orphan children there. Who could have imagined that she would have such a simple dream as a noble and cold outsider, a scheming, a vicious enemy and a man who eats people like a predator of capital and does not spit out bones for business? This is perhaps the most correct explanation of everyone's soft side, just as she is touched by the story of the Silver Fox and her sister Emma Jr. Want to go over and take a look? Yi asked her. Emma meant just that. The two get up, Yi-Bai picks her up, the read the note ability is activated, and goes to the ex-police. Time, Uncle Wolf returns to Canada to become a lumberjack and meets Kayla. William Stryker is built in a secret base in Canada. At this time, Stryker was taking the Silver Fox to visit the cruelty of the laboratory, and the experiments here shocked the Silver Fox. You and your sister are mutants, but your abilities are useful to me, work for me. I cannot use your sister as an experiment, otherwise these people will be your sister's end. William Stryker's tone did not fluctuate, calmly, as if saying what to eat today. Silver Fox Kayla, she is an 18-9-year-old beautiful girl, born in the Boston area of Massachusetts in Country M. Ben and her sister depend on each other, have excellent feelings, rely on their respective abilities to mix well in society, do not worry about food and clothing, have a car and a house. I thought that such a good day would continue until I accidentally saw the use of this ability, and not long after, the two sisters were attacked by a group of heavily armed people with anesthesia guns, and they were already present at this base when they were conscious again. Looking at the mutants in this laboratory who were brutally dismembered and their organs were packed in glassware, she couldn't imagine her sister becoming like this, and she was ready to nod in agreement with great fear. However, at this time, sirens sounded from inside the base. Stryker frowned, and he said to the Silver Fox Kayla, "Follow me." The two came to the monitoring room, looked at the monitoring screen, and saw a man and a woman breaking in all the way outside the base. The man is an Asian, the woman is a diamond. To this diamond man, Kayla opened her mouth in surprise, that is. Sister Ma? Apparently she recognized the wrong person. A round of bullets, grenades, the two of them kept walking. Yi-Bai's eyes transformed into scarlet. The control realm directly reversed the concept of space direction. Where did the attack come from and where it went back? For a while, the defenders of the base besieging the two suffered many casualties. Yi-Bai waved his hand again, opened his mouth and spit out the power of the spirit blessing realm, and the lilac realm covered the entire base range, including thousands of meters up and down, the realm of sparseness and density. Within range, the air began to thicken and everyone moved slowly and hard. Emma was not idle, and while constantly sneaking, the index finger of her right hand pressed on the right temple, and the huge psychic ability burst out, and the people around her, one by one, were stagnant thinking, fixed in place and motionless. General, the detection instrument shows that the energy in the bodies of those two mutants is very powerful. One of Stryker's men reported in horror. They have studied mutants for many years, and they know too well what it means to be a strong mutant, and looking at the terrified look of their subordinates, they know that the Comer is difficult to resist. This year, Charles has not graded mutants, otherwise Stryker's subordinates would have said that they were two suspected Omega-level mutants. As soon as Stryker opened his mouth to say something, he saw that the Silver Fox Kayla, who was escaping from the meeting, immediately stepped forward and put his hand on the shoulder of Stryker and the subordinates next to him, directly controlling them. "Where is my sister being held?" Kayla asked. Stryker, who was accused of his heart, had a wooden expression and told her the truth where he was being held. After getting the address, she ordered the two, "Hit the wall with your head until you stun." After she said that, she let go of her hand, ran out of the monitoring room, and went to the direction of the cell where her sister was held. Stryker and his men began to bang their heads against the wall. Unfortunately, Kayla is still inexperienced and has a limited understanding of her own abilities, so the behavior of letting people hit the wall is very problematic. No, the head had just made 2 intimate touches with the wall, and William Stryker woke up from being hit by the state of heart control. Damn. He cursed, but he also understood that it was not Kayla who was fleeing now, but the two powerful mutants who were about to break into the base. He stared at the monitoring for more than 10 seconds, analyzed it, and felt the increasingly viscous air, and knew that the armed forces in the base could not stop the two people. He was very desperate, decisively turned around and withdrew, and even the subordinate next to him, who was still banging his head against the wall, couldn't care about it. Outside, Kayla, who ran out of the monitoring room, her originally slow self, suddenly lightened, and the dense air of the road in front of her began to fade, allowing her to move normally, while the surrounding area was still in that state. She didn't know where the two people who invaded outside were helping her, and while she was grateful, she ran faster. The people she met along the way would be touched by her hand, and her heart controlled them to hit the wall. Emma, who had just broken into the interior of the base, sensed Kayla's action of making people hit the wall through the power of her heart, and she was very speechless. Even if you ordered them to stand still, it was better than hitting the wall, and they woke up when they hit it. The two moved the same route as Kayla, faster than Kayla, and 10 minutes later, both sides arrived at the prison where the mutants were being held. Kayla's sister is locked up here, and in addition to her sister, there are other mutants who are locked up here. Yi-Bai didn't see the juvenile version of the laser eye, probably because this was 6 years before Wolverine broke into here to save people, and 6 years ago now. The laser eye is probably still in his hometown, and whether the ability awakens or not is unknown. Episode 136. Near the mutant prison, there are many heavily armed soldiers guarding the prison. Yi-Bai and Emma, as well as the Silver Fox Kayla running through another passage, were discovered by the soldiers defending here, and the soldiers raised their guns and were about to shoot. Seeing this, Emma snorted coldly, pressed the middle finger of her right hand to the temple position, and activated her psychic ability. Under the influence of her ability, all the soldiers around her were frozen in place at the same time, as if they had pressed the pause button. Silver Fox Kayla, she stared at Diamond Man Emma blankly, and thought that this was her sister, because her sister can also become Diamond Man, and also has psychic abilities, also called Emma. It's just that. Is this person suspected of being her sister a little too strong in telepathy? Before she was caught here, my sister was obviously not so strong. Are you Emma? She asked uncertainly. Emma lifted her diamondized state, revealed her true face, and pointed to a cell in the prison. Your sister is in prison. Emma's diamond ability could not be used with the psychic ability, and if she used the psychic ability, she had to lift the diamondization state. Now Emma is much stronger than before, and there is no conflict between the two abilities, and her ability itself is stronger than before she met Yubai. Although she has not yet reached the Omega level, she is not far from that level. When she can spread her psychic power to a global scale, when she will be an Omega mutant. Seeing Emma's appearance, Kayla knew that she had recognized the wrong person, and her cheeks were a little red. She couldn't be shy, nodded her thanks to Emma and Yabai, and ran to the prison to find her sister. The cells in the prison are specially made for mutants, and it is difficult for ordinary people to escape if they are locked up. Yibai and Emma walked in and looked around. The former raised his left foot and stepped down hard towards the ground. The moment he stepped on the ground, with the foothold as the center, the dark red magic array spread out, spreading to the entire prison floor, walls, and ceiling in an instant. This is an alchemy array, and after it is spread, the alchemy is launched. I saw that the cells in the prison were quickly disintegrated and turned into a piece of metal sand. When the mutants who were in prison saw this scene, they realized that someone had come to save them, and they were all excited, and ran in the direction of the two who saved them. And Kayla, she has found her sister little Emma in this group, and she is relieved to see that she is safe and sound, and the two sisters hugged together, very excited. The two knew that it was dangerous here, so they just hugged and followed the crowd to the direction where the two benefactors were. Emma looked at these compatriots and unconsciously remembered some things in the original world. In that world, mutants were equally badly fed. Mutants are in the common human group, and everyone shouts and beats like mice. Extreme parents, who find their children in change, will shoot them to death. It can be seen that mutants are deep with ordinary people. Apparently this is the same in this world, and in her telepathy, she also found that there are more mutants dissected here, and organs are soaked in bottles and jars. With this shocking scene, it is impossible to say that she is not angry. She said to Yibai's heart, Yi, what do I want to do for these children? What are you going to do? Talk to Charles of this world. Good. Yibai waved his hand to open the gap between the passages, and said to the mutant children in front of him who looked very haggard because they had been detained for a long time, come in, let's get out of here. Seeing this strange spatial crack, especially the dense red eyes faintly visible in the crack, scared these children, and no one wanted to be the first to enter. It was Kayla who took the lead and pulled her sister little Emma to walk in first, and the children followed hard. Yibai and Emma finally walked in, and the gap closed and disappeared. This is a space with a purple tone, full of red eyes that are still alive, staring at these children, making them hairy. Emma went to appease the children, and Yibai saw that the guys were hungry, and simply took out food and water, beckoning everyone to eat first. Country M, New York, Wichard County, Xavier Manor. This is not a mutant school, but the home of Charles Xavier. Now Charles is 19 years old and a teenager with long flowing hair. There is no doubt that Charles is an intellectual mutant who graduated from Harvard at the age of 16 and also attended Oxford and Columbia universities. He holds several PhDs in genetics, biophysics, and psychology. Currently, he lives in this manor with Raven, the witch, and the two are about the same age. So far, Charles has not discovered the existence of other mutants besides him and Raven, but he firmly believes that there must be many people like them in this world, and he is looking for them. Today, Xavier Manor came with two guests. Charles heard the doorbell, walked to the gate of the manor, and saw a man and a woman outside the door. It was Yibai and Emma who came to visit here. Through the iron fence door, he asked the two people outside the door, "Who are you looking for?" Yibai introduced himself, Professor Xavier, a young genius in New York who has long heard of it. I am Yi, and she is my female companion Emma Frost, who came here to visit the professor. Charles habitually activated his ability, but was surprised to find that the ability was invalid for Yibai, and when he was against Emma, he felt a tingling pain in his head, as if the other party's heart was full of spikes and pierced himself. You, are you? He rubbed his head and looked at the two in disbelief. Professor Xavier, you guessed right, we are the same kind as you, Emma said with a smile. To be honest, seeing Charles, who had long flowing hair and was not in a wheelchair, Emma felt very fresh. Charles's head gradually hurt less, and his focus was now on the new kind, opening the door and inviting the two into the manor. Entering the living room of the manor, Ruiwen was sitting on the sofa watching TV, saw Charles bring two strangers in, and asked casually, "They are?" Charles said excitedly, "It's our kind, Ruiwen, I guess it's true. In this world besides us, there are indeed mutants." As soon as Ruiwen heard it, she was interested, and she didn't watch the TV. She got up and walked to the two people. Her eyes were bright, and she asked curiously, "What are your abilities?" Episode 137. What are you capable of? Raven, who has the face of a Hollywood star, asks the two. Yibai stared at Ruiwen's eyes, and the illusion was activated. Ruiwen only felt that she had come to a waterfall pool in the wilderness, where there were many magical little animals. They saw her and gathered around curiously. Seeing this group of cute creatures, she curiously grabbed a winged humanoid goblin from in front of her and glared at it. But soon, she found that her surroundings had recovered, and her hands were empty. Was it just my hallucination? What do you see? Charles asked her. Raven described what she had seen before. Yibai explained from the side, that's my ability, let people fall into the illusion of seeing what I want them to see. The two were abrupt, and then looked at Emma. Emma said, my ability is like Professor Xavier, I can see what is going on in the hearts of others. Knowing that Emma was as capable as Charles, Raven's expression froze. There is a Charles at home who can see through people's hearts, which makes Ruiwen very uncomfortable, and now there is actually another one? She felt that this day could not be passed. Next, everyone sat down on the sofa and faced each other. Emma began to tell Charles about the X-Man base in Canada. Yibai let Charles and Ruiwen understand more intuitively. He used magic to open a magic light curtain in the living room, and showed what happened in that base in the form of a picture in the light curtain. They saw the mutants being dissected from the pictures, saw the organs placed in various bottles and jars, and saw the mutant children imprisoned. I don't know if showing this to the young Charles will lead to X-blackening and learning to engage in terrorism. Emma continued, the number of mutants has increased in recent years, and according to the theory of evolution, we have emerged from humans and evolved first. Throughout the ages, advanced will always eliminate those who have not evolved. The government analyzed this, and some of them were afraid that mutants would one day replace humans. They study us in an attempt to understand our power, and if they don't get our power, they will destroy us. Charles grabbed his hair and looked bitter, and he asked the two, you guys came to me not just to tell me about this, right? We rescued some mutants from that base, and we hope that the professor will use your estate to open a mutant school, teach these children, and collect more mutant children, Emma said. And then what? Teach children how to participate in the fight? No, I wouldn't do such a thing. Professor Charles thought that was Emma, and yes, purpose. The war does not need children, we adults are all dead. Emma shook her head and only listened to her continue. I just hope that children can go to school normally, become adults, not be a mutant humanistic illiterate. Now is not ancient, knowledge is power. Yibai followed, gathering together the mutant children who are immature and easy to get out of control, and teaching them uniformly can also reduce a lot of trouble. The two of you say a word to me, and the central idea is one, so that Xavier Youth Talent School was established in advance. Charles, who before today, was still looking for his own kind everywhere, and thought that mutants were the embodiment of human evolution, that a new era would begin, and did not think too much about it. Now, not only has he seen his kind, but he has also been told these things, which makes him feel that the world is changing up so quickly. Yibai said to Charles again, I have an ability that can give others superpowers, including but not limited to mutants and ordinary people. Imagine that once people from the military, government, and business worlds all have superpowers and become mutants, will they still devote themselves to studying mutants? I am afraid that no similar proposal can be passed. That's right, Yibai wants to make trouble again. In order to prove this, Yibai asked Charles and Ruiwen with a smile, do you want to try multiple new abilities? Is that okay? Ruiwen pointed to herself, not daring to say anything. Of course, come, grab my hand. Yibai stretched out his hand to her. Raven got up and walked over, putting her hand on his. Charles looked at it curiously. If it was really as Yibai said, maybe it could really solve the problem peacefully. He did not want the outbreak of a racial war. I saw that where Yibai and Ruiwen's hand touched, a red light gradually appeared, and the light spread to Ruiwen's whole body. Ruiwen, how are you feeling? Charles asked with concern. Warm and very comfortable. Ruiwen narrowed her eyes and looked like she was enjoying her. The feeling of comfort filled her body, and even her deformed state was not maintained, and she returned to her red-haired and blue-skinned appearance. This process lasted half a minute, and when Yibai withdrew her hand, Ruiwen successfully acquired a new ability. Okay, try your new abilities. Yibai reminded. Being let go, Ruiwen was a little lost. Just now that feeling was really very comfortable, like returning to her mother's arms is warm, and she didn't want to end it so soon. But soon the reluctance is replaced by the novelty of what new abilities she will acquire, and she begins to feel the changes in her body. Charles also watched nervously. He was curious about what new abilities Ruiwen would get. I saw that Ruiwen's eyes gradually lost their color and became white. At one point, the meridians around her eyes bulged. Ruiwen suddenly found that her eyes could actually see 360 degrees in all directions, and everything within a radius of 5 kilometers could ignore obstacles and see clearly. That's right, the ability Yibai gave her was white eyes. Here someone has to ask, isn't it only possible to give others the ability that Yibai himself masters? And he didn't roll his eyes. And so it is. However, there are loopholes that can be drilled, and at this time, Dadamu Kagaya happened to be sitting on a chair in the shared room, and Yibai borrowed her ability. With this state, he gave Kagaya's ability to others. Once the witch has a white eye with very outstanding detection ability, combined with her transformation ability, no matter where she wants to sneak into, she will become more convenient in the future. For her, white eyes are a scouting plug-in. Episode 138. Ruiwen told Charles about the effect of her new ability, and Charles listened to it in amazement. Yi can casually empower others, which makes Charles feel that mutants suddenly become worthless. Yi Bai looked at Charles and asked him with a smile, "Want a new ability?" Today, Charles is only 19 years old, and he is curious about anything new. He doesn't refuse to do things like acquiring a new ability. So under Yi Bai's operation, the magic phantom art was regarded as a superpower and given to Charles. Phantom magic, which unleashes a phantom that is exactly like itself. Phantoms, like real people, can speak, but cannot be touched. This ability can match Charles's psychic ability, and within the coverage of his ability, he can project phantom magic. If Charles brought a brainwave amplifier, the phantom Charles could appear anywhere in the world. Whether it is used to scare people or to communicate with others more intuitively, it will be very practical. Charles learns new abilities, and he creates a phantom beside him. He is exactly like Charles, and he looks no different from the real thing. Ruiwen saw the curiosity and stepped forward and touched the shoulder of this new Charles. As a result, the hand penetrated and did not touch it, as if the person standing in front of him was a ghost. I thought it was a doppelganger, but it turned out to be just a phantom. Ruiwen was a little disappointed. If it was a doppelganger, she thought it would be more interesting. Charles controlled the phantom to speak. This ability is not like a mirage. It feels like some kind of hypnosis that acts on the minds of those around you. Yes, it is essentially an illusion, supplemented by your psychic ability. You can project the phantom anywhere in the psychic shroud area. Maybe you can develop some new uses of the ability based on this principle. Yi Bai prompted. In Yi Bai's opinion, Charles's psychic ability can completely achieve illusion projection, projecting a mental entanglement point that can interfere with others anywhere, and influencing the people around him with that point as the center, which is more high-end than directly using psychic ability. Next, Charles thought carefully about Emma's previous mutant school proposal, and finally nodded in agreement. Yi Bai took the opportunity to release the dozens of mutant children he saved. The oldest of the children is Kayla, who is the same age as Charles. The youngest is a little Shota, only 7 years old. The rest doesn't have to be bothered with Yi Bai. Charles will place them, and Emma will stay to help for a few days. Yi Bai, who had nothing to do, planned to go out, and Ruiwen offered to act as his tour guide. The point is that there are too many people in the family, and Ruiwen wants to go out to clean and clean. Walking in Westchester, Yi Bai asked Ruiwen, "Do you like white eyes? Is it called white eyes?" "Very good ability, thank you," Raven said, now looking around with a roll of her eyes. When Ruiwen uses the white eye, she can use the deformation ability to hide the white eye features. Even when the eyes are open, the raised meridians around the eyes can be masked. Seemingly normal star-faced girl, who can know that her eyes can see everything within a radius of 5,000 meters centered on her. It's a pity that this is not the kind of see-through eye in the legend, although it can see through obstacles, but to see through others is more than the ability of the eyes, and it is definitely not the fruit body that can be seen. Yi Bai had a whim. She gave Ruiwen an image in her mind and asked her, "Can you become like this?" Ruiwen found that she had the impression of a woman in her head, and listening to Yi Bai's words, she knew that the other party passed it on to her, and she nodded and became like that. Ruiwen's deformation is very thorough, and even her clothes have changed. In other words, Ruiwen was not wearing clothes, and the clothes on her body were made of clothes that were imitated on the body surface with her shape-shifting ability, which was essentially something she had always fruited. Think about it in another way. If Yi Bai is Ruiwen, it is difficult for him to imagine walking on the street without clothes. Even if he imitates the material of clothes with his ability, it will definitely be awkward. The image that Yi Bai made her change, like Mela in the Sea King movie, is sexy and charming, vivid. It should be said, is it worthy of being a witch? There is a saying that says, marry a wife as a witch, experience being a groom night and night. Does it look good? Raven spun around and showed her appearance to someone. Good looking. What type do you prefer? I'll change one for you too, Yi Bai said with a smile. You can also deform? Raven was surprised. She now thinks, is Yi Bai's ability a bit much? Hallucinations, empowering others. Before he opened a spatial crack and released a large number of mutant children, now the other party is going to perform transfiguration? Don't forget that my ability is to manipulate illusions. I want you to be pretty, I mean feminine, Raven said. The corner of Yi Bai's mouth twitched, and he complained, should you? Ruiwen blushed and turned her head to the side, embarrassed to take the stubble. The witch is Lala, this seems to be possible. I remember that in the comics, the witch woman of a certain period has a special relationship with the Destiny woman. In order to provoke his sister, Yi Bai decided to abandon the temperance exercise. He transformed into a purple puppet. It is not an illusion disguise, but a transfiguration, which is similar to the effect of Ruiwen's superpowers. Sensing that she had changed, Ruiwen turned her head again and saw Yi Bai's new image, only to feel very beautiful. Does it look good? Yi Bai asked the other party the question he asked him. Good looking, Raven said. Yi Bai smiled and stretched out her hand, and Ruiwen naturally put her hand on her hand. Hanging out together upgrades to hanging out hand in hand. Someone has been using years of experience in flirting with sisters, and he has learned all the way, and Ruiwen has a higher and higher liking for him. After seeing the movie at a movie theater, Raven asked him, "Wouldn't Emma mind if we were like this?" "She won't mind." Someone in the new image pulled the new image of Ruiwen and slipped all the way to a small uninhabited forest. They spent 3 hours in the woods before walking out together. It can be seen that the two are a little different from before. Yibai is refreshed, and Ruiwen's cheeks are rosy. The latter walked somewhat unnaturally, as if injured. A few days later, Xavier Manor officially changed its name to Xavier Junior Gifted School. Yibai and Emma have lived here in Xavier for the past 2 days. Emma saw that Yibai and Ruiwen were very close, and she was not surprised by this, but Ruiwen felt strange when she saw Emma so calm. "I robbed your boyfriend, how can you be so calm?" Episode 139. When Yibai and Emma were playing in the X-Vigil universe, in the Pocket Castle. This morning, Dark Phoenix went offline, Jean Grey logged in, and Jean regained control of her body. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is on vacation today, the students in the school are on holiday, and Jean doesn't have to focus too much on the substitute over there, leaving it to herself. With nothing to do, she planned to look at the live broadcast in the shared room. In the morning, there were not many people in the sharing room, only Katie, Wanda, and Jenny were here, controlling the stand-ins in Which World. Jean didn't disturb a few people, she turned on the TV, used the remote control to start changing stations. Speaking of which, this TV has more and more functions. In the past there could only be one live broadcast station, but now the live perspective is bound to everyone here. Through this TV can see what everyone is doing. For example, on the side of DC World, due to the time difference, it was just night. Kara's stand-in was not controlled by the body, moved on his own, just came home from school, and was eating a meal at home. For example, Diana, she is not in the DC world, she stayed in Marvel after the Dimensional Wars, and currently lives with Cersei of the Eternals in ontological way. Obviously on the DC side and another Cersei are incompatible, but with Marvel's Cersei on the side is unexpectedly happy. I have to say that this is really interesting. At this time, Diana was having breakfast with Cersei. Jean changed the table again, this time switched to Yibai, and was surprised to find that the place where Yibai was located was a little familiar. Wasn't it Xavier Youth Talent School? She adjusted the live broadcast perspective through the remote control and saw a long-haired man, that is, Professor? Hey, he's a lot like the professor. Katie the Phantom Cat on the sharing chair opened her eyes at this time and saw the person in the picture for the first time. He may really be a professor, from a young age. Jean said. Gradually, the two learned through live TV in the shared room that Yibai and Emma had gone to some parallel world and were guests at Professor Charles Xavier. Professor Charles and the two are fatherly beings. Although they both knew that the professor was dead, he was not familiar with him in the parallel world. But how can this kind of thing be relieved when you know it? If you didn't see it before, forget it, but now that you see it, the two discussed it and decided to go to that world to meet the young version of the professor. As Katie's friend, Jenny Aurora learns that the two are going to the parallel world to meet X, and she will follow. Wanda walked into the shared room at this time, heard about it, and said that she would go, because she also knew the professor. A group of 4 people came to the X-Cops movie universe by recording the coordinates of the new world in the castle. This morning, Charles got up early and was exercising in the yard. During the morning exercise, he saw 4 young and beautiful women walking on the road outside the manor, and he habitually used his psychic ability to probe the past, but was surprised to find that his ability did not work for those people. In other words, aren't there a lot of people who can be immune to his ability recently? Are they mutants? Charles felt that since meeting Yibai and Emma, the peaceful days were getting farther and farther away from him. He walked to the gate, put on a pose that he thought was a handsome gentleman, smiled, and asked the 4 women who came outside the door, "Good morning, beautiful ladies, I wonder what you are here for." When the 4th girl saw this professor with long hair fluttering less than 20 versions, her mood was complicated. "Professor, I'm Kathleen Pride and the 3 of them are my companions, and we're all mutants." When the women were in a complicated mood, Yibai found Caitlin Snow, a doctor of biogenetics and medicinal chemistry, in DC, and opened a laboratory underground in Xavier School to conduct X-related research with her. The underground laboratory was opened up by Yibai yesterday night with his ability, and the reason why this laboratory was made was to study how to give normal humans X factor. Not to copy mutant abilities, just to help mutants. Since Emma wanted to do something for this group, Yibai didn't mind helping her. Assuming that people in the political, military, and business worlds become mutants, is the problem of mutants still a problem? Although Yibai's LV2 alchemy can give others abilities, ability is ability, and it cannot give others X cause. Once someone in the future tinkers with a mutant detection device, those who are empowered will realize the fact that they are not mutants, so they need to do research. Caitlin Snow is a talent in this area. She can develop a speedster potion that allows people to obtain divine speed, so developing an agent that allows ordinary people to obtain X cause, presumably can also do it. Probably, Caitlin as the main research force, Yibai, who has no relevant professional knowledge, is on the side. In order to produce results faster, Yibai's will also cross time and space, looked into the past on the timeline, and witnessed the whole process of the celestial god group's transformation of Homo erectus into mutants. He saw some doorways, sorted out the process, and theorized to solve the problems encountered in the research of X, which greatly accelerated the progress. It's incredible. It's not like something that comes from nature, it's more like a miracle born by human intervention. Do you know the origin of Xene? Caitlin looked at the test results and marveled at the magic of the creator. About hundreds of thousands of years ago, the product of the transformation of Homo erectus. Yi-Bai did not say the celestial god group, the main thing is that it is endless, explaining the celestial god group, but also explaining their origin. And then explain the 5 gods of Marvel, the composition of the universe. Caitlin is a person with a strong desire to inquire, and Yi-Bai knows that once she says something about the celestial god group, Caitlin will definitely ask the same as 100,000 whys. Above the laboratory, Charles took Wanda Maximoff, Catherine Pride, Jean Burbill, and Jean Grey into the living room. In the living room, Ruiwen and Emma were chatting casually, and when they saw a few people come in, Emma and the 4 women greeted each other. "You guys are here too. You guys know each other?" Charles was surprised. Emma nodded. "Yes, we are from the same organization." "Organization?" Raven and Charles were curious. "Professor, don't listen to her nonsense, we just live closer." Jean glared at Emma angrily, saying what an organization, they didn't organize well at all. Emma pouted. "You're not as interesting as Dark Phoenix." "I'm really sorry that Dark Phoenix is not interesting." Jean rolled her eyes, she didn't want to talk about this, and changed the topic and asked, "What about G?" "He opened a laboratory underground and studied X-Cuz with Caitlin." "Oh, leave him alone, Professor, can you show us around here?" Jean asked Charles that she wanted to revisit and reminisce about the past. Gentleman Charles smiled. "Of course it's no problem." Charles was kind and steady when he was bald, but he also had a good time when he was young, and all the women present were very good looking, and he was happy to take them around his manor. Unfortunately, Jean, Katie and others only regard him as a father-like existence, and nothing else. For the next week, Wanda and the others did not leave and were always guests at Charles. During this time, Ruiwen learned about the relationship between these people and Yi. This is nothing for Raven, given her orientation, she is only interested in someone when she becomes a girl, and the rest of the time she stops at friends and does not go further. In this regard, someone is not less depressed, the lilies are occasionally okay, and if you want to immerse yourself in it, it seems that someone is very perverted. Now, a week later, Yi-Bai and Caitlin's research has finally yielded some results, and they have called Wanda, Jean, Katie, Emma, Jenny, Raven, and Charles. Everyone sat in rows on the sofa, Yi-Bai stood in front of everyone, and Caitlin pushed a table of bottles and jars. "Everyone, I would like to introduce the results of my time with Caitlin." Yi-Bai smiled and picked up a sealed glass test tube and introduced, "The direction of our research is clear to you. It is to promote ordinary people to obtain the X gene, so that all mankind can evolve and avoid possible racial wars. In the course of our research, we came up with a nice byproduct, which I had in my hands, which I named X-Factor Enhancement Potion." Caitlin followed Yi-Bai's words and introduced, "Its role is not aimed at ordinary people. Ordinary people injecting it will have a high probability of getting a disease, and will not get X-base. If it is a mutant injection, it can optimize its own X-cause to a certain extent, repair defects, and the sight of non-human characteristics can be restored. At the same time, it can also strengthen the abilities of mutants." Hearing this, everyone present looked surprised. "Will it work for us too?" Jenny Aurora asked. Yi-Bai nodded and said, "That's right, which of you wants to try?" Ruiwen, who had blue skin and red hair, pointed to herself and asked excitedly, "You said that it can repair physical features, can I do it too?" "Of course, you can trust me." Yi-Bai said, "Well, I trust you." Ruiwen stepped forward and said, "I want to inject." Charles frowned. "Ruiwen, this potion has not been tested in clinical trials and may have side effects." "Charles, don't say it, you know I hate the way it looks now." Ruiwen's tone was categorical. Charles knows Raven's character and knows that what she decides will definitely be done, and no one can stop her. He couldn't sit idly by and watch Ruiwen do such a dangerous thing, so he walked up to Yi-Bai and Caitlin and said, "Let me come first." "Charles, you." Raven looked at him in surprise, as if she didn't expect Charles to take the initiative to participate in this kind of thing for herself. Yi-Bai was speechless. "Don't worry, our potions have very few side effects, and you don't have to make it like a parting of life and death." He simply looked at Emma and said to her, "Emma, you should come first, this thing will also work for you, and it will strengthen your ability a little." Emma smiled slightly, got up from the couch, and stepped forward. Yi-Bai picked up the injection gun, loaded the test tube, and injected 10 milliliters of X-Gene Enhancer into Emma. Everyone looked at Emma, waiting for the results. Among them, the one who cares most about the result is Ruiwen. Emma closed her eyes, and felt that her psychic ability had indeed been strengthened a little. Well, just a little. Her diamondization ability and hardness seemed to have increased a little. Emma's diamondization ability has little to do with diamonds, but after using the ability, it looks more like a diamond, so it is named diamondization. "The potion is fine, my body is normal." She said this to Charles and Ruiwen. The others are their own people, they do not suspect that there is something wrong with this potion, because you can see the future. He said that the side effects are not big, that is, the side effects are not large. Of course, there are still a little side effects, such as now, Emma feels that she has a silky disorder in her endocrine and sweats a little. Seeing that Emma was no problem, Charles was relieved. Ruiwen couldn't wait to say, "Inject me." Yi-Bai nodded with a smile, took the injection gun, and injected Ruiwen with 10 milliliters of X-Cause Enhancement Elixir. The potion is not obvious in Emma, but it is quite obvious in Raven. I saw that Ruiwen's body surface gradually changed from blue and returned to normal. Seeing this, Yibai snapped his fingers and conjured a set of clothes on Ruiwen. You must know that Ruiwen has never worn clothes, and if her blue skin returns to normal and the scales on her body disappear, isn't it a direct fruit? 5 minutes passed, and Raven's appearance was completely back to normal, similar to her usual image, both of which were Jennifer's Hollywood star face. Maybe this is what she looks like, and it will be more energy saving to maintain it this way. Now that it is restored, there is no need to bother to maintain the deformation state in the future. It really worked, Yi, and Dr. Snow, you guys are amazing. Charles looked at the changes in Ruiwen, full of emotion, and he asked Ruiwen again, how do you feel? Ruiwen was full of joy, looked down at her body, and said excitedly, it feels very good, and I feel that my ability has improved a lot. She activated her abilities, took materials nearby, and suddenly turned into Emma's appearance. She deforms extremely fast, and the process does not exceed 0.000001 seconds, which is very abrupt in the eyes of others, as if a video has skipped a frame. I still feel, can imitate the abilities of others? Her tone was not very sure. Emma and Jean, in the world of zombie heroes, have seen the sentry robot of glass Valtrask, which is said to be made with the gene of a witch. Since the Sentinel robot can simulate mutant abilities, the witch can theoretically too, but the ability level is not up to standard to make it difficult for her to do it, and even in terms of ability, she is not as good as imitating the cat Vanessa. Now she was opened by Yibai and Caitlin with potions, which obviously met the standard. Episode 140, Raven, the witch, has several mechanisms for her transformation. If you know the appearance of others, you can imitate the deformation by impressions. The second is to feel a certain wave of others up close, and then move your own wave closer to each other, and you can naturally become the appearance of the other party, including voice, fingerprint, and iris can also be imitated. Now that she has injected the X enhancement elixir, she has a third transformation method. By feeling the DNA of others, you can deform your own DNA step by step to the other party. Not only can you become the appearance of others, but also imitate all the abilities of the other party based on the DNA plane. At this time, Ruiwen changed into the appearance of Emma the White Queen in the third way. In order to confirm that she really imitated Emma's abilities, Raven looked at Charles and tried telepathy. Soon, she and Charles collided with each other with psychic forces and had headaches at the same time. Did you really imitate Emma's abilities? Charles rubbed his head with a look of incredulity. Is that potion really so magical? It can actually allow Ruiwen's ability to evolve to such an extent. Ruiwen was also rubbing her head. She ignored the headache, looked excited, looked left and right, locked her eyes on the phantom cat Katie, and brushed to become the other party. Not surprisingly, she obtained the phantom cat's quantum avatar ability, which can float in midair and cross obstacles. That's right, floating in midair. When the phantom cat is turned on, it seems to step on the ground, but in fact, people follow the rotation of the earth and float in midair at a uniform speed, otherwise they will not be pulled into the ground by gravity and cannot get up again. I saw that Ruiwen at this time, using the ability of the phantom cat, was going through various obstacles in the living room, and she was having fun. Next, she simulates Jenny's flight and hard skin, Jean's psychic power, Wanda's modification probability, and Caitlin's divine speed. Among them, Wanda's chaos magic she can't imitate, and Jean's phoenix power is the same. These two powers are not genetic level abilities. And Caitlin, she is constantly using the speed force, and gradually, this ability is integrated into her genes, and now, even if she does not read the rapid equation, she can connect to the speed force. So Raven, the witch, can imitate Caitlin's divine speed, but the speed is far inferior to the other party. From this point of view, Ruiwen can only imitate part of the ability of others. Maybe when she reaches the Omega level, she will be able to simulate it 100%, and it is impossible to imitate non-DNA based abilities. Ruiwen imitated everyone present one by one, but when she tried to imitate Yibai, she failed, and she wondered, why can't I imitate you? Yibai pointed to the up position on his body surface and explained, the reason why you can imitate the abilities of the people around you is because you can sense their gene frequency and synchronize your genes. I block your perception of me, so you can't imitate it. Raven seems to understand, but Charles understands. That is, her real ability is not to change appearance, but to change genes? Good, this ability has a lot of room for development. Raven, her superpowers indeed. Can you imitate people? Can you also imitate non-people? Or is it part of the imitation? For example, combining different gene fragments, adding parts to itself, and growing wings on the back to become angels. Another example is turning your legs into fish tails and turning them into mermaids. Or borrow the characteristics of insects, animals, plants to give themselves new characteristics. Add the speed of the leopard, the strength of the ant, the bouncing power of the flea, the eyes of the eagle, the balance of the cat and other related genes, and the low-grade version of Superman. Further, if you imitate the superpower X of different mutants alone, combine them together. Yibai said his ideas about the direction in which Ruiwen's ability can be developed. Charles listened thoughtfully. He thought it was really possible. Ruiwen's eyes lit up and asked excitedly, can I really do that level? Theoretically possible, but very difficult. You have to have control over your own abilities to the subtle level. Yibai said. Charles agreed with Yibai's analysis. Indeed, the self-consistent chain of DNA, any change anywhere, can cause DNA collapse. Ignoring the discussion of the direction of Ruiwen's ability development, Yibai looked at the people present who had not yet injected the X-cause enhancement agent, and asked them, who will inject next? Next, Jenny, Charles, Wanda, Katie, and others were injected with the X-cause enhancement agent. Among them, Jenny, Wanda, and Katie have been improving their abilities in various ways since they followed Yibai. By now, everyone is close to the Omega mutant level, so X is not very good for them due to the enhancement potion. But for Charles, the potion tapped most of the potential of his X gene, and his ability was greatly improved. The power of the mind has doubled compared to before, and if Emma's spiritual power is compared to 10, then Charles now has 9. Emma has followed Yibai for so many years, and her spiritual ability has improved a lot, but now she is only 1% more than 19-year-old Charles, which shows that Charles is more talented. According to the comic book setting, Charles is a well-deserved first spiritual master on the Earth, and Emma can only rank second, which is still very reasonable. Next, after 2 months of research, the originally conceived potion was finally successfully produced with the efforts of Caitlin and Yibai. The role of this potion is very simple, that is, to give ordinary people X-cause and awaken superpowers. The type of ability is completely random, the ability level is also random, the probability of appearing Omega-level mutants is low to nothing, the probability of Alpha level is not large, and most of them are normal-looking Beta level and Delta level, and there will be a very small number of Epsilon level with flawed appearance. The potion is named X-cause Elixir, and if it is combined with X-gene enhancement elixir, ordinary people can directly become alpha-level mutants like X-Grant and King. In the spirit of scientific exploration, Caitlin also injected these 2 agents into her body. Her ability is not much new, but the ability of the sub-personality Frost to absorb heat energy is X. In addition to the sub-personality, her master personality can also be used. This ability can create cold by absorbing heat, and the upper limit of the ability is very high. As long as any creature is touched by her, it will be frozen into ice lumps in an instant. Ahem, the topic is far away. All in all, with this gadget, the previous plan can be executed. By the way, Wanda, Katie, Jean, and others left this world more than a month ago, and now only Yibai, Emma, and Caitlin are still here. In the next few days, the military, government, and business of Country M were secretly visited by Yibai and Emma, and without the knowledge of those people, they were injected with X-cause medicine and transformed into mutants. When all the top levels are mutants, naturally no one will propose proposals against mutants.